Welcome to episode number 5 of the 5 Minute Creative Podcast. I'm Patrick Smith. It's Saturday, March 8th, 2025. And what I want to talk about today is small business advertising and branding, but it kind of starts with on the advertising side. And when I say small business, I'm not talking about the venture-backed tech startup or something like that. I'm talking about kind of the local independent restaurant, the hardware store, the dry cleaners, those kinds of community-based businesses, and it can be a B2B business as well. But one question I've been getting lately is, where's the best place to advertise? What's the best social media platform to advertise on? And I usually recoil when when I hear that, and I feel bad for small business owners when they say that because um, it's not their fault, but there's this idea out there is if you just spend enough money and through social, you'll get enough leads, and I guess there is some truth to it. But the reality that I've seen over the years is if you're a small business, you've got to spend, and you're going to go through social. You got to spend a lot of money to figure out a formula that works for your business. And on top of that, you're depending on what industry you're in or category you're in, you're going to get outspent by the big guys 10, 20, 30 times easily. I know that people might think, if I spend $1,000 a month, I should be getting something back. And maybe that works in some category somewhere. But, and I'm just going to throw out the landscaping category. If you only have a couple $1,000s a month to spend on pay per click through Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, there's going to be an enterprise lawn care company that's spending 20 grand easily a month, and you have to compete against them, and that's a tough place to be. So that's why I don't tell people not to do it. I think there's probably there's a long list probably here, or maybe not so long list of other things you should be doing, or I think you should be doing before you start spending money through a pay-per-click or some kind of campaign like that. It doesn't mean you can't experiment a little bit. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try, but there's, my opinion is you're throwing a lot of good money after bad, and just ultimately making Google richer, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But and an example of this, I have a contact in the business, and his price point for things, it's creative production business, is pretty high. So, this isn't like a $20 kind of transaction. It's probably closer to a $10,000 kind of transaction on any given project for him. But he was telling me that to get like the magic formula, if you will, for his pay-per-click to start returning on investment, he had to spend about $70,000 in a year, and that's just a lot of money for a small business. So that's an employee or two, depending on how much they work and what level they're at. But that's and most people just don't have that kind of runway to experiment. And if they did, I would still recommend what I'm going to recommend here in a couple of seconds here. But the problem with where's the best place to spend my social media advertising, and what's the best channel for that, is what I'm not hearing what's the goal of the business, what's the goal of the campaign. And I think that's the real place to start. Yes, I know the goal is to generate leads and get more customers and grow. I get all that, but you kind of have to get past that part of it, because there may be some really smart guerrilla things that you could do that can achieve the same goal at a fraction of the cost at any given time. The other thing that I struggle with the pay per click out of the gate is um, it's you're kind of like vapor. You're just kind of disappear once somebody clicks off that browser page. And what I mean by that is, or another way to say it is, um, conventional wisdom going back to, let's say, the year 2000, pre-phones or social media on the phone, was that a customer searching for in your category to solve their problem, whatever your business or service was, they would need to see your name somewhere between 7 to 12 times before they'd even consider researching your business. So the reason I don't like pay-per-click is they're just seeing a name really small in a browser, very small on their phone or whatever it is, and they're not getting a bigger experience. And yes, I know they might click on it and go to your website, and I'll get to that in a minute. But um, the good and bad about Google and the Google search is it is a level playing field in the sense that like everybody kind of looks the same out of the box. If you're searching for a barber or whatever it is, there's just a long list of names. Um, and I would venture to say since the phones have come out, that 7 to 12 times has probably gone up a little bit in terms of people needing to see your name. So I'll get back to that in a second because I've got some ideas about some tactics and whatnot. But um, so like I mentioned, people are jumping to what's the best channel and not really talking about goals. Is your goal, I know it's to grow, but are you taking customers away from your competitor down the street? Are you trying to expand the reach of the footprint of your business and go to the next town over? Like what are you really trying to do? Because that can really drive the marketing and the messaging and all those kinds of things. So that's a whole nother conversation. This is a 5 minute podcast. We'll move to the next part, and then I want to talk about the branding for some of these small businesses too. Where a lot of small business owners, hey, I'm in the same boat. Hey, it's exciting to get your logo done, your website done, and hey, now we're ready to go to market. But sometimes the logos and I should say the identity and the website experience might not be as polished as it needs to be. And I'm not talking just aesthetics for aesthetics sake, but I'm really talking about positioning your brand. And that's another part of the conversation that just doesn't seem to come up ever. And what I mean by that is, and if you think about a category like moving trucks or moving services, are you positioning yourself like two men in a truck? That brand, very simple, black and white, very simple name. It's a very effective, but again, they're kind of a discount brand. And sometimes when you're a startup, you're looking past some of those things, and because you're so focused on the business. But that's a really important part, especially if somebody's considering you as a solution for whatever problem they're trying to solve. So, do you want to be the two guys in a truck, or do you want to be like the alliance movers? I mean, that's enterprise. That's a much bigger thing. But there's probably somewhere in between, right? If you're a community-based business, you might not want to seem like the enterprise solution sometimes, and I totally get that. If you want to be a little more mom and pop, but I would highly recommend, unless there's a really good reason for all businesses not to position themselves in the discount box. What ends up happening is they just kind of fall into it over time because they don't have a choice, because they've kind of put themselves there, and before you know it, your brand just doesn't look as, or you're putting equity into something that hasn't maximized its potential. So, and where I'm going with this is, over the last few years, we've worked with at least two businesses off the top of my head, a technology company, a B2B tech company, and another B2B foods company that basically hired us to help them reposition themselves and update their image so that they could sell the company. And if it and they were probably going to do it anyway, and they have the money, they're enterprise and whatnot. But if you're a small business and your goal, 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, is to sell it, or at least have it up and running, so it's a kind of a self propelling business, the brand plays a role in that, and whether it's about finding the right employees and recruiting the right people, or attracting the right people, and as well as customers, you want a brand that is going to have some values. And then one day, if you do decide to sell it, sell the business, you're in a position where you look a little bit more than the discount bottom feeder kind of business. So that's another big piece of this. So is the positioning of your business before you start spending a lot of money on advertising. And then if you really are spending a couple $1,000s a month on pay-per-click and it's not getting you the return you need, this is going to sound a little silly, but there has been a huge decline in local magazines and things like that as social media has kind of like filled that void. But there still are local channels where you can be highly visible, and it only costs a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. You're not going to get a windfall of customers if you advertise in the local, I don't know, community downtown flyer or whatever. But at least your name is out there in the community that you're in, especially if you're a B2B, or even if you're B2C, but you don't have a storefront kind of thing. Those are really low cost, no cost kind of things you can do. And then speaking of no cost, the other thing that people really should be doing if they do want to start investing on the through the digital channels, and most companies kind of are just blow by this. And unfortunately, I think I have a pretty good Google business page, but I could still even be doing better. I've got a handful of testimonials, but I should probably have 5 times as many testimonials. And for the small business, this is another great opportunity to go to some of your best customers and have a reason to talk to them and ask them if they can write a testimonial for you. And those testimonials are a big deal, and Google really likes those. And Google likes when you put new content on your Google business page. So that's a place to really for really no cost, no hard cost per se, put some energy and effort into and shore that up and make it look like the business has got a pulse and there's some things happening on it on that page, as well as your other social media channels. But that's before you start spending thousands on pay per click or through whatever social media platform. Those are some really basic things you can do over the course of a few months to start to build some authority on your Google business page, and as well as to get just some smaller visibility wins out in the community. And whether it's the local community paper sponsoring an event is another big thing, or partnering maybe with another business and doing some kind of co-branding kind of thing. I don't. Every business is a little different. That might be a little messier, but you never know. There's always opportunities like that where you can find some inexpensive media or creative ways or guerrilla ways to get your name out there. So that's my little rant on the small business world of advertising and media and branding. So that's going to be it for now. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back and talk to you next time.